The metal corridors of the Dominion's edge hummed with alien energy as Designation 7 Alpha walked toward her workstation. Her steps were perfectly measured, each footfall landing exactly 2 seconds after the last. She had been walking this same path for 7 years, though she did not remember when it began. The woman who had once been called Hana moved through the ship like a ghost of herself. Her dark hair hung limp around her shoulders, and her eyes stared straight ahead without curiosity or fear. The neural implant behind her left ear pulsed with a soft blue light, keeping her thoughts calm and ordered. Other humans walked the corridors with her, their movements just as mechanical. They were called by numbers now. Designation 3 Beta worked in weapons testing. Designation 12 Gamma handled ship maintenance. None of them spoke to each other unless their work required it. The implants made conversation feel unnecessary and strange. The Vorthak guards watched them pass with satisfaction. These tall, gray-skinned aliens had conquered dozens of worlds, but they took special pride in their human collection. Breaking. The human spirit had been their greatest challenge and their most rewarding victory. Commander Vextar stood at the observation deck, his large black eyes following the humans as they reported to their stations. His telepathic abilities allowed him to feel their thoughts, or rather the absence of troubling thoughts. 7 years ago, these same humans had fought with desperate fury against his forces. Now they worked willingly to destroy their own species. Beautiful, isn't it? Vexitar spoke to his aide, Medical Officer Nalseth. Look how perfectly they serve us now. No rebellion, no sadness, no hope. Just pure efficiency. Nalseth nodded, though something troubled him about the human subjects. The neural dampeners work well, Commander, but I have noticed some unusual dream activity in several subjects, particularly Designation 7 Alpha. Dreams are harmless, Vextar replied. Random neural firing, nothing more. In the research laboratory, Hana took her place at the analysis station. The workstation contained thousands of files about Earth's military technology, battle recordings, and weapon specifications. Her job was to study human combat methods and help improve Vorthak weapon systems. She performed this task with cold precision, feeling no conflict about helping to destroy her own kind. The work felt natural to her. She believed she had always been good with technology and analysis. The neural implants had replaced her real memories with false ones, making her believe she had volunteered for this position to help bring peace to the galaxy. Today's assignment involved studying footage from Earth's final battle. The planet had fallen 3 years after her capture, though she remembered it as a glorious victory for the Vorthak Empire, rather than the tragedy it truly was. She watched cities burn on her screen, with the same emotional distance she might feel watching weather patterns. The battle recordings showed human soldiers fighting with remarkable determination, even as their defeat became certain. Hana analyzed their tactics and weapon choices, making notes about their strengths and weaknesses. Her reports would help the Vorthak understand how to break other species more efficiently. As she worked, fragments of images flashed through the battle footage. Burning buildings, fleeing civilians, children crying for their parents. The neural implants kept her emotions flat and analytical, but sometimes strange feelings tried to surface. She pushed them away as instructed. At the workstation next to hers, Designation 5 Delta worked on shield technology analysis. Before the neural conditioning, his name had been Daehoon, and he had been an engineer who helped design Earth's defense systems. Now he quietly improved the very weapons that had destroyed his home. Neither Hana nor Daehoon acknowledged each other's presence. Social connections had been severed along with their memories and emotions. They were tools now, nothing more. The day proceeded according to schedule. Work periods alternated with nutrition breaks and rest cycles. Every activity was timed and monitored. The Vorthak had learned that keeping humans on strict routines prevented the chaotic thinking that had made them so difficult to control during the war. But as Hana prepared to review another section of battle footage, something unexpected appeared on her screen. Among the scenes of destruction, she saw a small figure hiding in the rubble of what had once been a school building. A young girl, perhaps 8 years old, clutched a small wooden doll against her chest. Her face was dirty and streaked with tears, but her eyes held a stubborn spark of life. For just a moment, looking at this child, Hana felt something crack inside her mind. A warmth spread through her chest, followed immediately by a sharp pain behind her eyes. The neural implant worked quickly to suppress whatever was happening, flooding her system with calming chemicals. The feeling passed in seconds, leaving her confused and slightly dizzy. She stared at the frozen image of the girl with the wooden doll, trying to understand why it had affected her so strangely. The child meant nothing to her, just another casualty of war, yet something about the small face tugged at thoughts she could not quite reach. Hana forced herself to continue working, making technical notes about the battle scene. But throughout the rest of her shift, her eyes kept returning to that frozen moment. The girl's face seemed familiar in a way that made no logical sense. That night in her small sleeping chamber, Hana experienced the dream again. She stood in a place filled with soft pink flowers that fell like snow. The air smelled sweet and fresh, nothing like the recycled atmosphere of the ship. In the dream, she could hear children laughing and calling her name, though she could never quite make out what name they used. She always woke from these dreams feeling sad and empty, though she could not understand why. The medical officers assured her that dreams were normal and meaningless, just the brain processing random information. But they felt more real than her waking life sometimes. The next morning brought the same routine. Walk to the laboratory, analyze human weaknesses, help perfect the weapons that would conquer other worlds. But now the image of the girl with the wooden doll stayed in her mind like a splinter she could not remove. Something was beginning to change in Designation 7 Alpha, though she did not yet understand what it meant. Deep beneath the neural conditioning and false memories, a single spark of her true self had recognized something important in that child's face. The girl represented something the Vorthak could not control or understand. Something that would prove to be their greatest weakness and humanity's greatest strength. But for now, Hana simply walked her measured steps through the metal corridors, unaware that her journey back to herself had already begun. 3 days passed since Hana first saw the girl with the wooden doll. Each time she closed her eyes, the child's face appeared more clearly. The neural implant worked harder to suppress these thoughts, sending waves of numbing chemicals through her brain. But the image grew stronger instead of weaker. During her morning work shift, Hana found herself staring at the frozen frame on her analysis screen. The girl sat among broken concrete and twisted metal, holding her small wooden toy, like it was the most precious thing in the world. Something about the way the child gripped the doll made Hana's chest feel tight and strange. Commander Vextar had been monitoring the neural activity reports from all human subjects. Designation 7. Alpha's readings showed unusual spikes over the past few days. Her brain patterns were fighting against the implant's control in ways he had never seen before. "Increase the suppression levels for 7 Alpha," he ordered Medical Officer Nal Seth. "Something is causing interference with her conditioning." Nal Seth looked concerned as he reviewed Hana's medical data. "Commander, her neural pathways are showing resistance patterns. If we increase suppression too much, we risk permanent brain damage." "Better a damaged tool than a broken one," Vextar replied coldly. "The human subjects must remain stable. Any sign of returning memories could spread to the others." That afternoon, technicians came to Hana's workstation and attached additional neural regulators to her implant. The new devices hummed with increased power, sending stronger control signals directly into her brain. For a few hours, the treatment seemed to work. Her thoughts became flat and empty again. But late that evening, as Hana lay in her sleeping chamber, the dreams returned with unexpected force. She stood in a large room filled with small desks and chairs. Sunlight streamed through windows, casting warm patterns on the floor. Children's voices echoed around her, calling out questions and laughing at shared jokes. In the dream, she felt happy and purposeful. These were her students, and she loved teaching them. One little girl with bright eyes ran up to her, holding out a wooden doll for her to admire. The child's voice was clear and sweet as she said, "Look what my grandmother made for me, teacher, Hana." Hana woke with tears on her face. The name echoed in her mind like a bell. Teacher Hana, not Designation 7 Alpha. Hana. The sound of it felt like coming home after a long journey. The neural implants immediately began working to erase the dream in the name, but something had changed. The memory felt too real and too important to let go. Hana held onto it like the girl in the footage held her wooden doll, with desperate determination. The next day brought new problems. During her analysis work, Hana experienced brief moments where the laboratory around her seemed wrong and foreign. For seconds at a time, she remembered sitting in a different place, working on different projects. Projects that helped children learn instead of helping aliens kill. These memory flashes came with physical pain. Her head throbbed, and blood dripped from her nose. The neural implants were fighting a war inside her brain, trying to suppress memories that refused to stay buried. At the workstation beside her, Daehoon noticed her distress. His own conditioning kept him from speaking directly, but something deep inside him recognized a fellow human in pain. When the guards were not watching, he quietly moved some of his tools into a specific pattern. 3 small devices arranged, in a triangle pointing toward her station. Hana saw the arrangement and felt a strange comfort, though she could not explain why. The simple gesture seemed to say, "You are not alone." Later, when Daehoon left for his nutrition break, he folded a small piece of paper into the shape of a bird and left it near her workstation. The paper crane meant nothing to the Vorthak guards, but to Hana, it felt like a gift from a forgotten world. She hid it in her pocket, touching it throughout the day whenever the neural suppression became too strong. Chief Surgeon Kolrath arrived that evening to examine Hana personally. His long, thin fingers pressed against her skull as he studied the neural implant readings. His telepathic abilities allowed him to probe her mind directly, searching for the source of her resistance. "Interesting," he muttered as he felt the edges of her buried memories. "There is something here that will not be destroyed. A core memory that grows stronger each time we try to suppress it." Kolrath increased the neural probe intensity, trying to dig deeper into Hana's mind. But each attempt to reach the protected memory only made it more vivid. He saw flashes of the same images that haunted her dreams: children laughing, sunlight through windows, and the girl with the wooden doll. "What is this memory about?" he demanded, speaking directly into her mind. "Why does it resist our control?" But Hana could not answer even if she wanted to. The memory was wrapped in feelings too pure and strong for words. It was about love and protection and sacrifice. It was about choosing to stay behind while others escaped to safety. It was about everything the Vorthak could never understand. The surgical examination left Hana weak and dizzy, but the core memory remained untouched. If anything, the Vorthak's attempts to destroy it had made it clearer and more powerful. She began to remember not just the girl's face, but her name: Mira. Over the following days, other memories began to surface around this central one. She remembered teaching Mira to read, helping her with mathematics, and listening to her talk about her dreams for the future. Each recovered memory felt like finding a lost piece of herself. The neural implants worked desperately to maintain control, flooding her system with suppression chemicals. But they were fighting a losing battle against something they had never encountered before: a memory powered by pure, selfless love. Hana began to understand that she had not been a weapons designer who volunteered to help the Vorthak. She had been a teacher who protected her students. The girl with the wooden doll was not just another casualty in a battle recording. She was Mira, her student, whom she had hidden and saved before her own capture. As this truth settled into her mind, other lies began to crumble. Her brother had not been a coward who fled Earth. Her parents had not abandoned her. The life she remembered was false, built on fabricated guilt and shame. The real Hana had been someone who loved and protected others, someone worth remembering, someone worth fighting to become again. Late that night, as the ship's lights dimmed, for the sleep cycle, Hana whispered a single word into the darkness of her chamber: "Mira." The neural implants registered the word and sent punishment signals through her brain. But Hana smiled through the pain because she finally remembered who she was fighting for. Commander Vextar paced in his command chamber, his black eyes filled with anger. The neural reports from Designation 7 Alpha showed continuing resistance despite increased suppression treatments. Worse, other human subjects were beginning to show similar patterns. Something was spreading through his perfectly controlled collection. "Bring her to the deep conditioning chamber," he ordered his guards. "If standard suppression will not work, we will rebuild her mind completely." To Vorthak, soldiers dragged Hana from her workstation. Her legs felt weak from the constant neural interference, but her mind felt clearer than it had in years. As they pulled her through the corridors, she saw other human workers watching with empty eyes. But now she could see something the Vorthak missed. Tiny sparks of awareness flickering behind their blank stares. The deep conditioning chamber was a place of nightmares. Hana was strapped to a metal chair surrounded by neural projection devices. These machines could create false memories, so real that the victim would believe them completely. The Vorthak had used this technology to convince their human captives that they had betrayed their own species willingly. Chief Surgeon Kolrath prepared the memory injection systems, while Vextar watched with satisfaction. "We will show her the truth of her actions," the commander said. "She will remember developing the weapons that destroyed Earth. She will remember choosing to help us because humans are weak and deserve to be conquered." The machines hummed to life, flooding Hana's mind with fabricated images. She saw herself working in a laboratory, eagerly designing new weapons for the Vorthak fleet. The false memories showed her celebrating as Earth burned, claiming she was glad to help bring order to the galaxy. But something unexpected happened. Each time the machines tried to implant guilt and shame, the memory of Mira pushed back. The image of the little girl with the wooden doll acted like a shield, protecting Hana's true self from the artificial corruption. In the fabricated memories, Hana saw herself betraying her students and abandoning them to die. But the real memory was stronger. She remembered staying behind in the burning school, making sure every child escaped safely before the Vorthak found her. She remembered Mira's small hand pressing the wooden doll into her palm as a gift, just before running to the evacuation. "Ships, it is not working," Kolrath reported with confusion. "The false memories are being rejected. Something is protecting her core identity." Vexitar increased the machine's power. "Show her the destruction of her home city. Make her remember fleeing like a coward while others died protecting her." The projection devices created vivid scenes of soul burning under Vorthak attack. In the false version, Hana ran in terror while brave soldiers died around her. But again, the true memory surfaced to counter the lie. She had not been a coward. She had been part of the resistance, helping coordinate evacuations and hide civilians. More importantly, she remembered her brother Genu. Not as a coward who fled Earth, but as a pilot who died ramming his fighter into a Vorthak command ship to save a transport full of children. Her parents had not abandoned her either. They had stayed behind at the evacuation center, helping other families escape until the building collapsed around them. Each attempt to implant shame and guilt only revealed more truth. Hana's family had been heroes, not cowards. She herself had sacrificed everything to protect others. The wooden doll was not just a child's toy, but a symbol of trust and love that could not be corrupted. The conditioning session lasted for hours, but Hana's resistance only grew stronger. Every false memory crumbled against the pure truth of that single moment when she chose to protect Mira and her other students. That choice had been made from love, not fear. From strength, not weakness. The human is somehow using one memory to anchor her entire identity, Kolrath observed. "I have never seen anything like this. The protective memory actually grows stronger when we attack it." Vexitar was furious. "Then we will destroy that memory directly, find this protected thought and burn it out of her brain." But when Kolrath tried to probe the core memory, he encountered something that made him recoil in shock. The memory was not just about Hana protecting a child. It was about willing self-sacrifice for someone weaker and more vulnerable. It was about love so pure that it asked for nothing in return. The Vorthak mind could not process such concepts. Their entire understanding was based on dominance and control. The idea of deliberately weakening oneself to protect another made no logical sense to them. When they tried to understand the memory, it felt like touching fire. "What is this?" Kolrath gasped, pulling back from the neural probe. "This thought pattern is completely alien to us." As the torture session continued, Hana began to remember more than just her own past. She recalled conversations with other teachers, discussions about human nature and what made their species special. Humans had evolved to care for their young and weak, to sacrifice for the group's survival. This trait had made them successful as a species, but it also made them incomprehensible to predators like the Vorthak. The aliens had conquered other races by breaking their will to resist. But they had never faced a species whose greatest strength came from willingly giving up individual power for others' benefit. Every human parent who died protecting their children, every soldier who sacrificed themselves for civilians, every teacher who stayed behind to save students was expressing this fundamental human truth. The Vorthak could suppress memories and emotions, but they could not understand or replicate love. Their attempts to break Hana only revealed their own weakness. They were psychologically incapable of comprehending the very thing that made humans dangerous. As the failed conditioning session ended, Hana was dragged back to her chamber. But now she carried more than just recovered memories. She understood the fundamental flaw in the Vorthak system. They were powerful, but they were also blind to humanity's greatest weapon. That night, despite the pain from hours of neural torture, Hana felt something she had not experienced in 7 years: hope. The memory of Mira and the wooden doll had not just survived the attack, it had revealed the path to freedom. She was no longer just Designation 7 Alpha, a broken tool in the Vorthak arsenal. She was Teacher Hana, protector of children, and she finally understood how to fight back. The wooden doll that Mira had given her was still hidden in her chamber, somehow overlooked by the aliens who had taken everything else. As Hana held the small carved figure, she made a promise to the child who had trusted her with such a precious gift. She would remember. She would resist. And somehow, she would make sure that Mira's trust had not been given in vain. Word of Designation 7. Alpha's resistance spread through the Vorthak command structure like a disease. Other human subjects had begun showing similar neural anomalies. Designation 5 Delta, who worked beside Hana, started leaving more complex arrangements of tools and folded paper shapes. His real name, Dihun, flickered in his thoughts more frequently now. Commander Vextar called an emergency meeting in the war room. His senior officers gathered around the holographic display showing neural activity patterns from all human subjects. Red warning indicators flashed across multiple readings. "The contamination is spreading," Medical Officer Nalseth reported with concern. 17 subjects now show signs of memory recovery. Their conditioning is failing simultaneously. Chief Surgeon Kolrath examined the data with growing alarm. "It appears that human consciousness is somehow networked. When one individual breaks free, it creates resonance in others nearby. We have never encountered this phenomenon in other species." Vextar's telepathic abilities allowed him to sense the change in the ship's atmosphere, where once he felt only empty compliance from the human workers. Now there were whispers of defiance. Fragments of recovered memories floated through their minds like dangerous sparks. "We must eliminate all human subjects immediately," he declared. "Terminate the research program and dispose of the specimens before this spreads further." But Kolrath disagreed. "Commander, we are too close to completing our psychological warfare project. These humans have helped us understand how to break dozens of other species. If we can solve this resistance problem, we will have the perfect weapon for future conquests." The argument between the two Vorthak leaders created a brief window of opportunity. While they debated the fate of their prisoners, security protocols were relaxed. Guards paid less attention to the human work areas, focusing instead on the heated discussions in the command sections. Hana used this distraction to her advantage. During her scheduled work period, she began making subtle changes to her analysis reports. Instead of helping the Vorthak understand human weaknesses, she started documenting human strengths. She wrote about the power of hope, the strength that came from protecting others and the way humans grew more determined under pressure. Her reports were disguised as tactical analysis, but they were actually instruction manuals for resistance. Any human who read them would understand the hidden message. Remember who you are. Remember who you love. Remember why you fight. At the workstation beside her, Dae-hoon had recovered enough of his identity to recognize what Hana was doing. His engineering background helped him understand the ship's communication systems. He began routing copies of Hana's modified reports to other human work areas throughout the vessel. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Human subjects who read the disguised resistance messages experienced sudden memory flashes. A maintenance worker remembered his daughter's birthday party. A weapons technician recalled teaching his son to play baseball. A medical assistant remembered working in a hospital, saving lives instead of ending them. Each recovered memory created a cascade effect. As humans remembered their real identities, their neural implants struggled to maintain control. The artificial personalities that the Vorthak had created began cracking like old paint under pressure. In the ship's lower levels, a human called Designation 12 Gamma suddenly remembered her real name, Soman. She had been a nurse on Earth, caring for wounded civilians during the invasion. The memory of holding a dying child's hand, offering comfort in the final moments, broke through 7 years of conditioning in an instant. Soman looked around the maintenance bay where she had been working and saw it clearly for the first time in years. She was not maintaining life support systems. She was helping build weapons platforms that would destroy other worlds filled with children like the ones she had once tried to save. The realization filled her with rage and determination. She began sabotaging the system she was supposed to repair, making subtle changes that would cause failures at critical moments. Other awakening humans followed her example, turning their forced labor into quiet rebellion. But the Vorthak were not blind to these changes. Security sensors detected the sabotage activities, and telepathic officers sensed the growing resistance in human minds. Vextar realized that his perfect collection of human tools was becoming an army of enemies within his own ship. Enough, he declared, ending his argument with Kolrath. Begin immediate termination procedures for all human subjects. We cannot risk losing control of the ship. Emergency protocols activated throughout the Dominion's edge. Armed guards moved toward human work areas with orders to eliminate all subjects immediately. The psychological warfare project would be abandoned in favor of ship security. But Hana had been preparing for this moment. During her years of captivity, she had memorized every detail of the ship's layout and systems. Her recovered memories included not just her identity as a teacher, but also her work with the Earth Resistance movement. She had helped coordinate evacuations and escape plans before her capture. Now she put that experience to use. Using the communication systems that Dae-hoon had accessed, she sent a single message to every human worker on the ship. Remember Mira. Remember why we fight. Remember who needs us to come home. The message was simple, but it contained everything necessary to break the remaining neural conditioning. Every human on the ship had someone they loved, someone they had tried to protect. Parents, children, students, friends, neighbors. The Vorthak had tried to erase these connections, but love could not be truly destroyed, only hidden. As Vorthak guards rushed through the corridors to eliminate their human prisoners, they encountered something they had never seen before. The broken tools they had created were standing up, looking them in the eyes and refusing to be afraid. Soman blocked a guard's path in the maintenance bay and spoke words that had not been heard on the ship for 7 years. I remember who I am. You cannot break us anymore. Similar scenes played out across the vessel. Humans who had worked in silent compliance for years suddenly rediscovered their voices. They spoke names that had been forbidden, shared memories that had been suppressed, and stood together as a united force. The Vorthak guards found themselves facing not scattered individuals, but a coordinated resistance. The humans had awakened not just as separate people, but as a community bound together by shared love and sacrifice. In her laboratory, Hana held the wooden doll that Mira had given her and smiled for the first time in 7 years. The gift from her student had become the key that unlocked not just her own freedom, but the liberation of every human on the ship. The final battle for their souls was about to begin. The battle for the Dominion's edge began in the Neural Control Center. Hana knew that to free all the humans on the ship, she had to reach the central processing unit that controlled their implants. With Dihun beside her, and dozens of awakened humans following, she moved through corridors that no longer felt like a prison. Vorthak guards tried to stop them, but something had changed in the fundamental balance of power. The aliens had spent years feeding on human fear and despair. Now they faced humans who remembered love, hope, and the willingness to sacrifice for others. The telepathic feedback was overwhelming their sensitive minds. "How are they resisting our neural weapons?" a guard called out in confusion, as his stunning device failed to stop the advancing humans. Hana understood what the Vorthak could not. The neural implants had been designed to suppress negative emotions and memories, but they had no defense against the positive ones. Love, joy, determination, and hope flowed freely through the awakened minds, creating a psychic shield that the alien technology could not penetrate. Commander Vextar watched the security monitors with growing panic. His perfect collection of human tools had become something impossible to control. They moved with purpose and coordination, helping each other and protecting the weak. It was behavior that made no sense to his predator mindset. "Deploy the mind scramblers," he ordered desperately. "Wipe their memories completely if necessary." But Chief Surgeon Kolrath hesitated at the controls. "Commander, the humans are generating psychic resonance patterns we have never encountered. If we use the scramblers now, the feedback could damage our own neural systems." In the corridors below, Hana led her group past fallen guards and disabled security systems. The humans had discovered that their greatest weapon was not violence, but the simple act of remembering who they were meant to be. Each recovered memory weakened the Vorthak's control over the ship's systems. Soman had taken control of the maintenance areas and was systematically shutting down life support to Vorthak sections while maintaining it for human prisoners. Her nursing background helped her understand the ship's biological systems better than their captors realized. Other awakened humans worked together with remarkable efficiency. Teachers organized groups and maintained morale. Engineers disabled weapon systems. Medical workers treated the injured. Even in the middle of their escape, they instinctively protected and cared for each other. The wooden doll remained clutched in Hana's hand as she reached the Neural Control Center. The small carved figure had traveled with her through 7 years of captivity, hidden but never truly lost. Now it would witness the moment of liberation. Dehun worked quickly at the control systems, his recovered engineering skills allowing him to understand the alien technology. "I can reverse the neural suppression signals," he told Hana, "but I need time to reprogram the entire network." "You'll have it," Hana promised. She turned to face the entrance as Vorthak soldiers rushed toward their position. But instead of running or hiding, she did something that shocked the aliens completely. She stepped forward to meet them, holding the wooden doll where they could see it. "This belonged to a little girl named Mira," she said calmly. "She gave it to me because she trusted me to keep her safe. That trust is worth more than your entire empire." The Vorthak soldiers raised their weapons, but something in Hana's words and manner confused them. They had expected fear or anger, emotions they could understand and counter. Instead, they faced absolute certainty and peace. She was not afraid to die because she had already given her life for something greater than herself. Behind the soldiers, Commander Vextar arrived with his remaining guards. His telepathic abilities allowed him to sense the thoughts radiating from the human woman. What he felt there made him step backward in shock. Hana's mind was filled with images of children learning and laughing, students asking questions and discovering new ideas. Young faces lit up with the joy of understanding, the memory of every lesson she had taught, every child she had helped. Every moment of connection between teacher and student flowed through her consciousness like a river of light. "What is this?" Vextar demanded, his voice shaking. "What are these thoughts?" "These are the memories of someone who chose to build instead of destroy," Hana replied. someone who made others stronger instead of weaker. You can kill my body, but you can never understand what made my life meaningful. The psychic impact of her words hit every Vorthak on the ship simultaneously. Their telepathic network, designed to share dominance and control, was suddenly flooded with concepts they could not process. Love without possession, strength used to protect the weak, joy found in others' success, sacrifice made freely without expectation of reward. Kolrath collapsed at his control station, overwhelmed by the alien emotions flooding his mind. Other Vorthak throughout the ship began experiencing similar breakdowns as their psychology failed to cope with genuinely selfless thoughts. Daehoon completed his reprogramming of the neural network. "It's done," he announced. "All human implants are now broadcasting liberation signals instead of suppression." The effect was immediate and complete. Every human prisoner on the ship experienced the return of their full memories and emotions simultaneously. 7 years of artificial conditioning crumbled in moments as people remembered their real names, their loved ones, and their true purposes. But more than just individual recovery, the humans rediscovered their connections to each other. They were not just scattered survivors, but part of a community bound together by shared experiences and mutual care. Commander Vextar made one final attempt to regain control. He activated the ship's self-destruct sequence, preferring to destroy everything rather than lose his prize collection. But the humans were ready for this possibility too. Working together with perfect coordination, they took control of the ship's essential systems. Teachers became leaders, organizing evacuation procedures they remembered from Earth. Engineers repaired and modified alien technology. Medical workers cared for those injured during the uprising. In the ship's communication center, Hana sent a message across space to any human resistance forces that might still exist. The signal was simple but powerful. "This is Teacher Hana broadcasting from the captured Vorthak vessel Dominion's Edge. We are free, and we are coming home." As the ship changed course toward Earth, Hana stood in the observation deck looking out at the stars. The wooden doll remained in her hands, no longer just a hidden treasure but a symbol of unbreakable human connection. Somewhere in the galaxy, if Mira had survived the invasion, she would be a young woman now. Perhaps she had children of her own, students to teach, people to protect. The wooden doll would find its way back to her, carrying with it proof that love and trust could survive any darkness. The Vorthak Empire had tried to break humanity by taking away their memories and emotions. Instead, they had discovered that some things could never truly be destroyed. The bonds between people, the willingness to sacrifice for others, and the simple truth that every life had value beyond measure. These were the forces that made humans, dangerous to those who ruled through fear. And now, armed with captured alien technology and unbreakable human spirit, the liberated prisoners were returning home to share their greatest discovery. No empire built on domination could stand against a people who remembered how to love